Subscribe to my YouTube channel, share it with your friends, and comment your thoughts. The wrong table. She thought it was a mistake, until the stranger changed her life. Sophie adjusted the strap of her faded blue dress as she walked into the dimly lit restaurant, her stomach twisting with nerves. Her eyes scanned the softly glowing tables, each one marked with a number in gold script. Table 7. That's what the dating app had confirmed. Her roommate Emma had practically shoved her into the Uber, saying, "It's time you moved on. Just meet the guy. One dinner. No expectations." Sophie didn't do blind dates. Not after Adam. Not after the 6 months of betrayal, of pretending to be okay, of watching him move on like she never existed. But here she was anyway, half curious, half desperate, not to spend another Friday night alone with cold pizza and memories. She spotted table 7, or at least what she thought was table 7, and approached it. A man was already sitting there, mid-30s, dark suit, eyes locked on the wine menu. He looked nothing like the profile photo, but maybe people just used old pictures. "Hi," she said softly, trying to smile. "I'm Sophie." The man looked up. His face was unreadable for a second. Then he gave a slow, amused smile. "You're not Emily, are you?" Her heart hiccuped. She stared, confused, then glanced. Down at the number card. Table 9, not 7. "Oh my God," she muttered, mortified. "I'm so sorry. I think I sat at the wrong—" "It's fine," he said, waving off her apology. "Honestly, best mistake that's happened to me all week." She stood, about to leave, but he tilted his head and added, "Stay, if only for 5 minutes. I promise not to bite." She hesitated. It had been so long since someone looked at her like that, like she mattered, like she wasn't a ghost of who she used to be. She sat. And just like that, the night unraveled in a way she never expected. They didn't talk about favorite colors or star signs or how many siblings they had. Instead, he asked her, "What scares you more, being alone or being forgotten?" She laughed, but the kind that wasn't funny. "Isn't it the same thing?" He looked at her differently after that, as if something clicked, as if her pain spoke a language he understood. She learned his name was Ryan, that he used to work in finance, but got out 2 years ago. He didn't say why, didn't offer a story, just said he realized money was the wrong way to measure life. Sophie told him about her mom, how she walked out one day and never returned. About Adam, the boyfriend who convinced her love meant sacrifice, then slept with her best friend. About the apartment she hated and the job she couldn't afford to quit. He didn't flinch at any of it. He just listened, nodded, and told her she deserved better. And for some strange reason, she believed him. By the time dessert was offered, she had no idea what happened to the man she was actually supposed to meet. Her phone had buzzed a few times in her purse, but she ignored it. Right now, this was the only moment that mattered. When the bill came, Ryan covered it without saying a word. She protested, but he smiled and said, "Don't ruin the magic of a mistake that felt right." She laughed, and for the first time in what felt like years, she meant it. As they stood, she reached for her phone. "Can I give you my number?" He paused, then handed her a small folded note instead, just 4 words. "Come back next Friday. No name, no number, no explanation." Before she could ask what that meant, he was already walking away. She didn't sleep that night. Not because she was confused, but because for the first time in months, her thoughts weren't drowning in past pain. They were floating on curiosity, on the mystery of a stranger who saw straight through her and vanished like a dream. Friday couldn't come fast enough. She returned the next week. Same restaurant, same dress, same heart racing in her chest like it was trying to warn her or push her forward. She couldn't tell. She sat at table 9 and waited. Half an hour passed, then another. The waiter brought water, then more water. Then a questioning look. Finally, just as she was about to leave, a different waiter approached her and placed an envelope on the table. "This is for you," he said quietly. Sophie's fingers trembled as she opened it. Inside was a single photograph of her, taken the week before, sitting at the table laughing, head tilted back, eyes shining. She hadn't seen him take it. In the corner, a note was scrawled, "I'll explain everything. Please don't stop coming back." Her breath caught. She turned the photo over. Nothing. Then she noticed something stuck inside the envelope. Another slip of paper, almost missed. 5 words that chilled her. "Don't trust the next man." Her heart pounded. A voice behind her said, "Sophie." She turned slowly. A tall man stood there, dressed in a clean blue shirt, holding roses. "I'm Michael," he said with a gentle smile. "From the app. I think we were supposed to meet last week, but you didn't show." Her mouth went dry. She didn't remember scheduling another date. Not after Ryan. Michael's expression faltered a little. "Is everything okay?" Sophie nodded slowly, but her instincts screamed otherwise. Because the moment he sat down, something shifted. He was polite, kind even, but his eyes scanned the room too often. His phone buzzed 3 times in 10 minutes, and each time he glanced at it nervously. She barely spoke. Her mind raced with questions. Why had Ryan warned her? Why did Michael feel rehearsed? And most importantly, why did she suddenly feel watched? After dinner, Michael walked her to her car. The lot was nearly empty. A breeze tugged at her dress. "Can I see you again?" he asked. Sophie hesitated. "I'm not sure." He nodded, then smiled. "I hope you figure it out." As he walked away, she noticed something in her windshield wiper, a piece of paper. She yanked it free and read, "Ask him about Berlin. If he lies, run." She gasped. The parking lot was now empty. Her hands shook. Berlin? She didn't even know what that meant. But next Friday, she'd be back. The Berlin clue. Sophie couldn't sleep for days. Every time she closed her eyes, the word Berlin echoed in her mind. What did it mean? Why would Ryan, a man she met by accident, shared one deep evening with, and then disappeared, leave her warnings? And more importantly, why did she believe him? Michael had texted her twice since that night, nothing strange, just polite follow-ups, asking if she got home safe and if she'd like to meet again. But every word from him now carried a different weight, like a knife hidden behind a bouquet, that note on her windshield. It wasn't imagination. Someone had placed it there. Someone was watching her. Someone who knew Michael, and possibly what he was capable of. She sat by her window Thursday night, arms wrapped around her knees, watching the city blur into midnight shadows. She clutched the note again, the words now, burned into her brain. Ask him about Berlin. If he lies, run. What if Ryan was playing a game? What if this was all some elaborate setup, a prank, or worse? But her gut said no. Ryan didn't feel like a liar. Michael did. Friday night, same restaurant. Sophie walked in, scanning the room. Table 9 was empty. No Ryan, just like last week. Her heart sank. Still, she sat down, waited. Minutes passed, then 20, then the same waiter appeared. No envelope this time, just a soft expression. "He left something earlier," he said, sliding. "A small object across the table. Said you'd know what to do." It was an old cassette recorder. She blinked at it. "Is this a joke?" The waiter didn't respond, just nodded and left. Sophie stared at the device, unsure if she should play it in public. She slipped it into her purse, heart hammering, and left the restaurant without finishing her drink. At home, the lights were off. She sat on her couch in the dark and pressed play. The voice crackled. And then, "Ryan, if you're listening to this, you're smarter than I was. And braver. Sophie, I know I don't have the right to ask you anything, but please don't trust Michael. He's not who he says he is." A long breath. Berlin isn't a city to him. It's a name, a code name for an operation that went terribly wrong. He used to work for someone powerful, dangerous, and people got hurt. Innocent people. I was one of them, He left us behind to save himself. Silence. Then, you deserve the truth. Ask him. Look him in the eye. If he lies, you'll feel it. And Sophie, if I don't make it back, please know meeting you was the first real thing I've felt in years. I wish we had more time. Click, the recording ended. Sophie sat in stunned silence. Berlin is a code name, an operation. Michael was involved. Ryan was part of it. And something went horribly wrong. She didn't sleep that night either. The next day, Sophie met Michael at a quiet cafe, her choice near a police station just in case. She watched him walk in. Same smile, same clean-cut look. He looked like a man who paid his taxes early and helped old women cross the street. But now, she saw the tension under his skin, the way his eyes scanned the cafe for exits, the tightness in his jaw when she asked him to sit. "Thanks for coming," he said casually. She nodded, then looked him dead in the eye. "Can I ask you something?" He smiled again, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Sure. What does Berlin mean to you?" He froze. It was the smallest thing, barely a pause, but enough. Then he laughed too quickly. "Berlin, the city. I've never been, but I hear the winters are brutal." She stared. "So you've never heard it used in another way?" Shook his head. "No, why? Because someone told me it's not a place, it's a code name for something you were part of, something bad." His smile faded. A second passed, then two, and Sophie saw it. The fear, the guilt, the instant realization that she knew more than she should. Michael leaned in, voice low. "Where did you hear that?" She didn't answer. He gripped the edge of the table. "Who told you about Berlin?" "I want the truth, Michael." "She," said her voice shaking. "Right now." He leaned back, eyes narrowing. "You're getting involved in something you don't understand." "Then help me understand," she snapped. He studied her for a long, quiet moment, then said something that made her blood run cold. "Ryan's not who you think he is." They sat in silence after that. Michael stirred his coffee, calm now, like he'd made a decision. "He was a whistleblower," he said. "Not some random casualty. He leaked documents that put lives at risk. People died because of him. Families, children." Sophie's throat tightened. "You trusted him after one conversation, but I knew him for years. He played hero, but he was reckless, obsessed. And when Berlin happened, he turned on all of us." She wanted to scream. Was Ryan lying, or was Michael spinning a perfect, manipulative story? "Why did you say nothing before?" she asked. Michael shrugged. "Because I thought you'd figure it out on your own, and because I hoped maybe I could get to know you without his shadow looming over us." He smiled again, gently this time. "You don't have to believe me now, but I think you will, sooner or later." He got up, paid the bill, and walked out like nothing had happened. Sophie sat there, hands clenched. Now she had two versions of the same story, and no idea who to believe. That night she found her apartment door ajar. Her heart stopped. She reached into her bag and pulled out the pepper spray Emma had given her last Christmas as a joke. "Hello?" she whispered. No response. She stepped inside. Nothing seemed disturbed until she got to her bedroom. Her drawers were open, clothes tossed around, her laptop gone, and on her pillow, another envelope. Her hands shook as she opened it. Inside, a USB drive and a note. "He's watching you. This proves everything, but don't plug it into your own device. Find a safe place. Trust no one." No signature, no name. But she recognized the handwriting. Ryan. He was alive. He had broken into her place. But why? And what was on that USB? The next morning, Sophie went to a public library downtown, used one of their computers. She plugged in the USB with a breath held tight in her lungs. There were 3 files, 1 video, 2 documents. She opened the video first. It was grainy, but what she saw would haunt her forever. A dim room, men shouting, a table covered in maps and files, and Michael, standing front and center, arguing with Ryan. Their voices were heated. Ryan looked desperate. Michael looked dangerous. "I'm not going to let you bury this," Ryan shouted. "You already have," Michael snapped. "And if you go to the press, they'll bury you too." Sophie's blood froze. The video cut off suddenly. She opened the first document, a report labeled Operation Berlin Internal Breach Investigation. Ryan's name was there, along with Michael's and dozens of others. The second document was worse. Photos, names, deceased individuals, civilians. Michael had signed off on the clearance report that ordered the mission to proceed, despite clear warnings. He lied. Ryan didn't cause the deaths. Michael did. Her breath caught. Ryan had tried to stop it. He had warned people. And now he was hiding because someone wanted him silenced. Michael hadn't just lied. He was dangerous. That night, Sophie went to a hotel. She didn't tell anyone where. She changed her number, and she sent one email to a secure address scribbled on the back of the USB. "I believe you. I'm in." Within minutes, a reply came. "Good, now we bring it all down." But just as she closed her laptop, the hotel phone rang. She picked it up, hand trembling. Silence, then a familiar voice, calm and icy. "You should have stopped digging." "Sophie." Click. "Nowhere is safe." Sophie dropped the hotel phone as if it had burned her hand. She stared at it for a second, heart pounding so violently it echoed in her ears. The voice was Michael's. He knew where she was. She grabbed her bag and shoved the USB back inside, eyes scanning the room. No time to think. No time to wonder how he found her. He just had. She slipped on her hoodie, left her untouched dinner on the table, and was down the fire stairs before she could even catch her breath. As she ran down to the parking lot, she didn't dare look. Back, not yet. Every instinct screamed run. Sophie didn't have a plan. She only had fear. She changed SIM cards. One Ryan had slipped into the cassette recorder's battery slot and powered on the spare phone. It blinked once, then loaded a single contact already saved in it. No name, no number, just, "If you're in danger, call." She did. One ring. Two. A gruff voice answered. "Where are you?" She hesitated. "I think they found me. Michael, he just..." Called the hotel room. "Get to Union Station fast, North Gate. Someone will meet you. Don't talk, don't stop. You'll know who." Click. No name, no goodbye, just instructions. And for some insane reason, Sophie obeyed. Union Station was buzzing. People, security, luggage, screens. For a second, she felt invisible. Then her eyes caught a woman in her late 40s dressed in jeans and a Canada Goose coat standing by a vending machine. She had no luggage, no phone, just a newspaper folded in her hands, upside down, their eyes locked. The woman nodded once. Sophie approached cautiously. "I don't know if you..." The woman grabbed Sophie's arm. "We're walking." "No. Well, time to explain." She led Sophie briskly toward the back exit, where a dark SUV waited, engine idling. The door opened as they neared. The woman shoved Sophie inside, followed, and the door slammed shut. "Seat belt," the driver barked. Sophie obeyed, trembling. The woman beside her turned. "Name's Alice. I worked with Ryan. You've made yourself a target, so congratulations. You're officially in this." Sophie's voice shook. "In what?" "The fallout." Alice pulled out a tablet and tapped rapidly. "Michael isn't just a former agent. He's active. Berlin wasn't a rogue mission. It was sanctioned, dirty, but protected. Ryan tried to expose it. That's why he ran." Sophie's head spun. "Why me? Why pull me into this?" "Because you're the only person Ryan trusted, and because you made Michael nervous enough to make a mistake." Alice turned the screen to her. It was a photo, a security cam stilled from the hotel hallway. Michael, dressed in black, approaching her room just minutes after she'd checked in. He had been coming for her. They drove 2 hours north to a cabin nestled deep in a forest, past cell towers and streetlights. Inside, it was warm but bare, survivalist-like. A kettle hissed quietly on a wood stove, and sitting at the table, hunched over maps and open files, was Ryan. He looked up as Sophie entered. For a moment, neither spoke. Then he stood slowly, eyes soft with guilt and something heavier. "You came," Sophie's voice cracked. "You broke into my apartment. I had to. You wouldn't have listened any other way. You scared me." "I know." He looked down. "And I'm sorry. But I didn't know who was watching. I couldn't risk messaging you directly. They tap everything." Alice left the room silently, giving them space. Sophie sat down slowly, her knees weak. "Michael called. At the hotel. How did he find me?" Ryan hesitated. "He has access to law enforcement databases. He's in deeper than I realized." "He told me you were the dangerous one," she whispered, "that people died because of you." He nodded painfully. "They did, but not because of what I did, because of what I tried to stop. Berlin was a cover-up. Ryan laid it all out for her. It had been a covert mission to dismantle a criminal ring overseas. But something changed. Intelligence was doctored. Innocent families were labeled threats. Children were killed in an airstrike that was never supposed to happen." Ryan had discovered the truth in the field. Michael had signed the kill order, despite knowing the data was false. When Ryan protested, he was branded a traitor. They wiped his clearance, made him disappear. He'd spent the last 2 years collecting proof, but every time he got close to exposing the operation, someone vanished or died. "So you used me," Sophie said, tears in her eyes. "To finish what you started?" "No," he said, voice raw. "I meant to walk away. That night at the restaurant, it wasn't planned. You sat at the wrong table, but you made me remember what normal felt like, what kindness looked like. You reminded me what I was fighting for." She blinked fast, anger and emotion battling in her chest. "And now we end it. Together." The plan was dangerous. Expose Michael. Deliver the proof to the international press. But it couldn't be digital. Too easy to trace, too easy to erase. The files had to be hand-delivered, and only one journalist in Europe had the reach and protection to handle it, which meant Sophie had to leave the country. Ryan couldn't. He was still wanted under fabricated charges, so Sophie would go. Alice arranged new documents, passport, tickets, a new name, Emily Brooks. Everything would change, hair, clothes, ID, even her story. But one question haunted her. "If we do this," she asked Ryan that night as they stood by the window, snow dusting the trees outside, "will it make a difference?" He looked at her with eyes full of shadows and scars. "It already has." He took her hand. "You changed everything." The flight was set for Sunday. By Saturday night, they'd packed everything. Sophie's mind was a storm, part of her still. Couldn't believe she was doing this. A week ago, she was just a woman who walked into the wrong restaurant. Now she was about to take down a ghost agency and risk everything. That night, Ryan gave her a burner phone. "Don't turn it on unless you're safe. I'll call you when it's over." She nodded. They didn't kiss, but the way they looked at each other was louder than any goodbye. Sunday, airport, 4:12 a.m. Sophie passed through security using her fake ID. No issues. Her flight boarded in 20 minutes. She sat near. Gate C12, clutching her small carry-on, heart hammering. A man walked past. Dark jacket, briefcase. He didn't look at her. Then another, and another. She reached into her jacket and felt the envelope inside, the USB, printed documents, and Ryan's handwritten letter to the journalist. Her hands were sweating. Then her phone, the one Alice had given her, buzzed. Unknown number, just one message. "He knows. Don't get on the plane. South exit. Now." Her blood turned to ice. She stood slowly, looked around. Michael. She couldn't see him, but she could feel it. That same heavy tension, like someone had eyes on the back of her skull. She started walking, fast but not running, toward the south exit, through the crowd. A voice called her name. She didn't turn. Another step. Then an arm grabbed her. She screamed, but the man shoved a badge in her face. "Security, come with us." She froze. Was he real or part of them? A second officer appeared. "Ma'am, we need to search your bag. Step this way." She looked behind them and saw Michael standing by a vending machine, watching her like a predator. Everything inside her screamed, "Run!" And she did. She ducked into a bathroom, locked the stall, pulled the emergency phone out and turned it on. Second passed, then it rang. Ryan's voice exploded into her ear. "Tell me where you are!" "Terminal C, near Gate 12. "Michael's here. They found me. Listen, don't go outside. You'll be exposed. Go down to level 1, service hallway." Behind the bookstore, Alice is already en route. 2 minutes. The line cut off. Sophie bolted down the escalator, past confused travelers. She found the unmarked door behind the bookstore, pushed it open, and ran into a dark corridor lined with cleaning carts and exposed pipes. Footsteps echoed behind her. Not one pair, multiple. She ducked behind a supply shelf, held her breath and prayed. A man in black passed, then another, then silence, and then Alice's voice. "Move!" She emerged from a side tunnel, hand extended. Sophie ran to her. They bolted through a maintenance exit into the snow-covered parking garage. A van waited. The door slid open, and Ryan was inside. He grabbed Sophie, pulled her in, and slammed. The door shut as tires screamed on the concrete. Sophie collapsed into him, breathless. "I thought," she choked. "So did I," he whispered. Then, softly, "But I'll never let them take you." But as they drove, Alice's face turned grim. "They made her," she muttered, eyes on the rearview mirror. "Who?" Ryan asked. Alice didn't answer. Instead, she handed Sophie a small device. "What's this?" Sophie asked. Alice looked at her, dead serious. "Your insurance." The man who wasn't supposed to exist. The van raced through the snowy outskirts of the city, tires crunching over half-frozen gravel as Sophie tried to breathe through the chaos still clawing at her chest. Her hands trembled around the small, cold device Alice had handed her. "What do you mean, insurance?" she asked. Alice didn't answer right away. Instead, she took a sharp turn down a narrow forest road, tires fishtailing slightly on the ice. Her face was set, jaw clenched, eyes focused forward. Ryan finally spoke. "If they catch you again, if something happens to me or Alice, press the button on that device. It'll trigger a location drop to 4 different journalists across the globe, people we trust." Sophie looked at it, a black thumb-sized cylinder with one tiny red switch. "No labels, no markings, but that would expose everything," Ryan nodded. "That's the point. They'll know you're not bluffing." Sophie stared out the window, the frost-blurred trees whipping by. "So I'm bait now?" "No," Ryan said quietly. "You're the only one with the strength to finish this." They arrived at a safe house near the edge of the Laurentian Mountains, buried so deep in snow it looked abandoned. Inside, it was warmer than expected, rustic. Fire crackling in the hearth. Weapons and files tucked in every shadow. Sophie collapsed onto a couch as Alice pulled down the blinds. Ryan stood across the room, arms folded, eyes dark. "You were right," Sophie said slowly, staring into the fire. "Michael would have killed me." Ryan didn't respond. His silence said enough. "I don't understand one thing," she added. "Why now? Why not leak the files already?" "Because," Alice said, pulling a chair close, "we've got one last card to play, a man who vanished years ago. If we can find him, everything changes." Sophie's heart skipped. "Who?" Ryan turned and said a name she'd never heard. "Nathaniel Knox." Nathaniel Knox wasn't just a ghost. He was the architect of the Berlin operation, a decorated intelligence veteran, a genius strategist. And as far as every government file claimed, dead. But Ryan didn't believe it. "I saw the autopsy photos," he said, "but they were too clean. No blood, no signs of trauma, just staged, like a mannequin." He pulled out an old photo. 2 men shaking hands. One was Ryan, the other tall, military-cut hair, steely eyes. "That's him," Ryan said. "He trained me," Alice added. "Word in the dark channels is that Knox went rogue after Berlin, faked his death, went Into hiding because he knew Michael would come for him. Sophie leaned forward. So if we find him, Ryan nodded, he can confirm everything and bring Michael down from inside the system. But how do we find a ghost? She asked. Ryan turned to Alice. We go to the one place Knox was last seen alive. 3 days later, they flew under aliases to Prague, the last known location linked to Knox before his supposed death. Alice stayed behind to coordinate safe zones. Sophie and Ryan arrived at a run-down pension, posing as newlyweds. The receptionist smiled, handed them a key, and gestured up the creaky stairs. The room was small. A single bed. A window overlooking an alley. The heater sputtered as Ryan dropped his backpack and started unpacking old case files and printed photos. Sophie sat at the edge of the bed, watching him. Did you ever love someone? She asked suddenly. He paused, looked up. Yes, he said simply, but I lost her. Because of all this, he nodded. Do you regret it? A long silence, then. I regret not saving her in time. Their eyes locked. The room felt smaller, quieter. Then a knock on the door broke the moment. Ryan reached for his weapon, motioned for silence. He peeked through the peephole. A boy, maybe 12, holding a note. Ryan opened the door just a crack. The boy slid the note under, then vanished down the hall. Ryan opened it. It had only 2 words. Train station. They arrived an hour later. Snow was falling lightly, dusting the cobblestones and benches. Old lanterns flickered above the platforms. The place was half empty. Ryan led Sophie to a bench near track 4. They waited. 10 minutes passed, then 20. Then a man walked up, mid-60s. Tall, coat zipped high, gloves, cap pulled low. He sat beside Ryan without looking at either of them. You're louder than I remember, he said, voice gravelly. Ryan didn't speak. The man turned his head, and Sophie saw him. Older, thinner, but it was him, Nathaniel Knox. You shouldn't have come, Knox said. You brought a civilian into this. She saved my life, Ryan replied. She's still a target. Sophie stepped forward. I'm not afraid of... Michael, I just want the truth out. Knox smiled faintly. You're braver than most, he said, then looked at Ryan. Why now? Ryan pulled the USB from his coat. We have the files. We have the truth. We just need your voice. Knox's face hardened. You have no idea what Michael has become. This isn't about secrets anymore. It's about control. Sophie asked, then why fake your death? Knox looked at her, really looked at her, and something flickered in his eyes. I had a daughter once, he said. She died because I stayed in the system too long. I left to stop myself from becoming like him. He stood, slipped something into Ryan's hand. I'll record my testimony, but after that, you'll never find me again. He vanished into the snow. Ryan opened the envelope. Inside was a microcard and a photo. Sophie took one look and gasped. It was a surveillance image of her from 3 years ago. In it she was smiling, but beside Michael. Back at the pension, Sophie sat frozen. Ryan looked at her gently. You knew him before this? No, she said, voice shaking. I met him once, a charity gala. He said he worked in security. That's all. I didn't even remember until now. Ryan frowned. Then why keep a photo of you? Sophie stood. I don't know. She was lying. She did remember. That night she'd left the gala with Michael. Had a drink with him. He'd been charming, kind. Asked questions about her family, her work, her dreams. Now she realized he'd been profiling her 3 years ago, before Berlin, before Ryan, before any of it. Her knees buckled slightly. I think I was part of the plan, she whispered. Ryan stared at her. You weren't just a random mistake, he said. Sophie looked up, tears burning. No, I was the bait from the beginning. That night, Ryan sat in the corner of the room, watching Sophie sleep on the bed curled tightly. His mind raced. If Michael had chosen Sophie years ago, why? What did he want with her? What else hadn't she remembered? Then his phone buzzed. A message, blocked number. You should have stayed gone. She was mine first, you took her, I'll take her back. Ryan's heart stopped. He looked at Sophie and realized Michael wasn't just playing a game, he was making it personal. The woman he never let go. Sophie woke to the sound of shattering glass. Her eyes flew open. Ryan was already on his feet, gun drawn, scanning the room. A window had been cracked by something small and sharp. Glass shards glittered across the wooden floor like ice. Ryan motioned for her to stay low. Sophie's breath caught as he edged toward the window and peered out. No movement, just falling snow. Then he spotted it, a single dart embedded in the window frame, drenched in a glistening liquid. A warning, not an attempt. They were being watched. Ryan locked the room down, reinforced the door with the small wardrobe. Sophie sat on the bed, heart racing. "We have to go," she said. He didn't answer. She looked at him. "You got another message, didn't you?" Ryan nodded slowly. He said, "You were his first, that I took you. And now, he wants you back." Sophie's stomach turned. "But I barely knew him. One night. I don't even—" "Memory manipulation," Ryan interrupted. "Michael had access to early-stage trauma blockers. It's possible he erased parts of your memory, gave you back what suited him." "No," Sophie said quietly. "That's insane." "Then explain this," Ryan whispered, and pulled something from his bag. A police report filed in Zurich 3 years ago. Victim, Sophie Hale. Suspect, name unknown. Details, claimed memory gaps, emotional instability, nightmares. No physical injuries, no evidence, case closed. She stared at the paper. Her legs went numb. "I filed this?" she asked, voice barely a whisper. Ryan nodded. "You were found wandering a hotel hallway in Zurich, crying. No ID, no shoes, just a wristwatch. With the initials MW. Michael's. And just like that, it came rushing back, not all at once, just flashes, his hand on hers, the way he looked at her like she was a broken puzzle he needed to solve, her crying in a bathtub, unable to explain why, his whisper in the dark. "You're mine now, Sophie. You just don't see it yet." She clutched her stomach. "Oh God, he did something to me." Ryan sat beside her, his voice trembling. "We think he picked you early. You were vulnerable, smart, isolated. He wanted someone the world wouldn't miss, someone he could shape. But I escaped," she said, voice shaking. "No," Ryan replied. "Someone helped you. We just never knew who." Later that night, Ryan left to retrieve gear from a contact. Sophie stayed in the safe house, clutching the burner phone tightly. Her mind whirled through fragmented memories, emotions she didn't recognize. The knock came at exactly 2:14 a.m. 3 soft taps. She stood up slowly. "Ryan?" No answer. Another knock. Then a whisper. "Sophie." "Open up, it's me." Her blood froze. It wasn't Ryan. It was Michael's voice, soft, calm, as if nothing had ever happened. She backed away from the door. "I won't hurt you," he said through the wood. "Not if you just talk to me. We were good once, weren't we? Before the lies?" She didn't respond. Her heart pounded in her ears. "I know you remember Zurich," he continued. "You came to me that night, Sophie. Don't let them twist it." She turned to the back window, locked, no exit. Then she heard it, a second voice inside the house. Footsteps on the stairs. She spun around and saw her, Alice, holding a gun. But, not pointed at Sophie, pointed down, laid gently on the table. "I'm sorry," Alice said. "I didn't know until now. I didn't want to believe it." "What are you talking about?" Sophie demanded. Alice pulled something from her coat. A flash drive. "I was working for Michael," she said. "Not willingly. He had my brother. Said he'd kill him if I didn't help him track Ryan. You." "Knox." Sophie stepped closer. "What changed?" Alice's eyes welled with tears. "My brother's dead. Been dead for a year. Michael never told me. He just kept using me." The gun still lay untouched. "You can run," Alice whispered. "Right now, but if you don't end this, he'll never stop." Ryan returned. 20 minutes later to find the safe house empty. No sign of forced entry, no blood, just the scent of gun oil and a USB drive on the table. He inserted it into his laptop, hands trembling. It wasn't just files. It was a confession. Alice's full audio log, detailing Michael's operation, how he targeted Sophie, how he planned to disappear with her and fake a new life again. But at the end of the file, Alice added something else. "If you're hearing this, it means I'm gone. I followed them. I know where Michael is taking her. A private airstrip outside Kiev. You've got less than 48 hours. Ryan stood. This wasn't just personal anymore, it was war. Sophie sat in the back seat of a black car, her hands zip-tied loosely. Michael sat beside her, humming a tune she didn't recognize. Snow whipped across the windshield. A silent guard drove. "You remember more now, don't you?" Michael asked softly. She didn't respond. He leaned closer. "We were happy in Zurich. You were light in a world full of shadows. And then someone took you from me." She turned, met his eyes. "You drugged me, manipulated me." He smiled faintly. "I loved you. You controlled me." He didn't deny it. Just reached out and gently pushed a strand of hair behind her ear. "You're not a prisoner," he said. "You're a missing piece. You're insane." "No," he said. "I'm prepared." They arrived at the airstrip just before dawn. A jet was warming on the runway. Sophie's heart thundered. No one knew where she was, not even Alice, or so she thought. A voice rang out through the freezing dark. "Let her go." Michael froze. Ryan emerged from the fog, gun drawn, eyes blazing. Michael's guard raised a weapon, but dropped it with a single shot from a second figure in the trees. "Knox!" Ryan shouted. "You're surrounded!" Michael laughed. "Are we playing?" "Heroes now, Ryan." "Don't," Ryan warned. Michael pulled Sophie close, one arm around her neck. "Shoot me, and she dies." But Sophie had already been moving. While his attention wavered, she yanked a pen from his coat, stabbed it into his thigh. Michael screamed and dropped her. She ran. Gunfire erupted. Ryan tackled Michael to the ground. The two men fought viciously, fists, knees, fury. Blood on the snow. Then a single shot. Silence. Sophie turned. Michael lay on the ground, gasping. Knox lowered his weapon, smoke rising from the barrel. Michael reached out towards Sophie. "I would have given you the world." And then he was gone. They left the airstrip before local authorities arrived. Knox vanished again, this time for good. The files were released globally. Names, locations, dates, proof of government manipulation, human trafficking, psychological conditioning. Michael's empire collapsed, but Sophie didn't feel relief. Not yet. She stood at the edge of a frozen lake weeks later, looking at the watch he once gave her. MW. On the back, she dropped it into the icy water. Beside her, Ryan stood in silence. "Will it ever stop hurting?" she asked. He didn't lie. "No," then added, "but we get stronger." She nodded, eyes stinging. "Let's go home. Some mistakes are meant to save you." 6 months had passed since the airstrip. Spring had returned, and with it color, to the trees, to the skies, and slowly to Sophie's life. The scars still lived beneath her skin, memories of a man who claimed love while poisoning her soul. But she was no longer the same woman who had once stared down at a stranger in a cafe, wondering if she'd sat at the wrong table. That mistake had rewritten her life. She stood in front of the community center where she now volunteered twice a week, teaching self-defense and confidence-building workshops to women with missing time, fractured memories, or gut instincts they'd been taught to ignore. Sophie never said Michael's name, but his shadow was in every lesson. Inside, the class had ended, and the women hugged her on the way out. One left a single sticky note on her clipboard. "Thank you for reminding me I wasn't crazy." She smiled softly. That used to be her deepest fear, that maybe, just maybe, she had imagined it all. But now she knew better. Her phone buzzed. A text from Ryan. "You home? Surprise waiting." She texted back, "On my way." Their apartment overlooked the river, calm and glistening in the afternoon light. When she opened the door, her jaw dropped. The small dining table had been set, candlelight flickering, music low in the background, her favorite red wine uncorked, and Ryan standing in the center of the room, holding a small box. Her eyes welled up instantly. "Ryan!" He didn't speak right away, just knelt and opened the box. But there wasn't a ring inside. Not yet, just a folded note. She picked it up, hands trembling. "We've both been broken, lost, hunted. But I found peace in you. If you ever want to build a future from the ashes, I'll be waiting." She looked down at him. "I don't need time," she whispered. "You've been my home since the night I thought I made the worst mistake of my life." He smiled, stood up. And this time, he pulled out the ring. Nothing extravagant, just a small sapphire stone, set in silver, simple, honest, like him, like her now. She said yes. A few weeks later, Sophie sat at her laptop, sipping tea and rereading something she'd written over the last 3 months. A letter she never planned to send, but one she needed to write. It was addressed to Michael. "You taught me what it feels like to lose everything, my mind, my safety, my self-worth. But in doing so, you also led me to something you never intended, myself. The woman I am now doesn't tremble at footsteps in the hallway. She doesn't flinch when men raise their voices. She walks into rooms knowing her story could break others, or rebuild them. You tried to erase me. Instead, you helped reveal me, and for that, I've stopped hating you. Because hate is still a chain, and I've finally put down the ones you forged." She deleted the draft. She didn't need it anymore. A year later, Sophie gave a TEDx talk. Her topic, "When you think you're the mistake." She spoke calmly, clearly, but every word dripped with truth. She didn't mention names, but the moment she said, "I once sat at the wrong table and ended up finding everything I never knew I was missing," the entire auditorium went still. At the end, there was silence, then thunderous applause, dozens of hands reaching for her after, dozens of survivors recognizing something in her eyes, something they'd seen in their own mirrors. Later that night, Ryan held her close backstage. "You're finally free," he whispered. She smiled through tears. "I'm finally me." Back at home, Sophie opened a letter from an attorney. The last loose end from Michael's dismantled empire. Inside was a deed to a small cottage in the Swiss Alps, property Zurich, owner Sophie Hale. She showed it to Ryan. "What are we going to do with that?" he asked. She smiled. "Burn it, then go build something better." Months passed. Their wedding wasn't big, just the people who mattered. Alice was there, having rebuilt her own life. Knox sent a message in code only Ryan. "Good, understand. Job well done, you kept her safe, now let her fly." After the ceremony, Sophie stood under the stars, barefoot in the grass, looking up at the sky. A soft wind passed through the trees. Ryan came up behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist. "What are you thinking?" he whispered. She took a deep breath. "I used to think my life shattered the day I sat at that wrong table," she said. "Now I realize that was the moment the universe knocked down the walls I didn't know were trapping me." He kissed her shoulder. "You think it was fate?" "No," she said with a quiet smile. "It was a mistake, but some mistakes are meant to save you." Final message to the audience. Sometimes the most painful moments, the betrayals, the regrets, the terrifying wrong turns, are the very cracks through which strength begins to grow. Sophie didn't just survive, she transformed. And in her story we remember, you're not crazy, you're not alone, and your story isn't over. The end.